Hey, what's going on? You know who it is. You know what it is. All right, you guys. I saw a very interesting article with Will Smith that I needed to share with you guys because, as you guys know, I grew up in hip hop. That's pretty much what I grew up listening to. If you are in that, I say 38 to 38 and up range, you grew up listening to a certain type of hip hop before it got what it became to be now. You know, I'll say if you born after 1980 81, you kind of got used to listening to a certain type of hip hop. Because, as early as 7, you start having your feel for music and what you going to like and what you going to grow up listening to. I'm a 70s baby. So I came from the vinyl era. I seen it progress into tapes as a kid and then eventually CDs and now basically digital downloading. So, I saw what it became because back in the day, I had parents. In case you guys don't know, they played mostly records. They had cassette tapes back then, but cassette tapes wasn't really that that big. And one thing that I hated about cassette tapes, if you didn't clean your cassette player at least once a month, those tapes get caught up and they'll split in half, and then you end up having to buy a new tape. So I kind of went from you know vinyl to cassette tapes and then CD, then eventually downloading just like everybody else. Because like I said, I had I had parents that grew up, and I think if you came from that era, you had a great sense, you had a great musical ear based off some of the stuff your parents played. You know, my dad, my dad, he used to listen to a lot of OJs. So my dad liked the OJs. He listened to Tower of Power. He listened to this dude named Ronnie Dyson. A lot of people. That's he kind of underground. He liked Teddy Pendergraph. Where my mother, she liked. My mother was my mother. She's a big Minnie Riperton fan. She liked Minnie Riperton. She liked Tina Marie. She liked Rick James. She liked Switch, Slave, Bloodstone. She used to listen to stuff like that, you know. So it would be funny, like when I was a kid, my mother used to get up like late at night, like 2 o'clock in the morning, and I would go downstairs and listen to records with my mother and stuff. And my mother would tell me to pick something out, and then I'd pick a record out, and she'd play it. So I got used to listening to various types of music. So that was cool. So I grew up having, a good sense of sound for music. I could have been, to be honest with you, I could have been a better, you know what I'm saying, A&R than most of these people that they tried to put in these positions, because I really do have a sense for music, you know. But at the end of the day, getting back to Will Smith, Will Smith was born like in 68, I think, 68, 1968, something like that. I think 1968. So he's going to be 52 this year. So yeah, he's a few years older than me, but he came from that vinyl era, and that's what I'm trying to say. So our taste in music would be a little bit different. But one of the things he said, getting back to him, he was just talking about how he didn't use profanity on his records, which is true. And he basically explained, he said, as a young kid growing up in, I think he from West Philadelphia, he was just saying that, hey, he was getting his books together, and you know how us as kids, we get our rhyme books together and stuff. And like I told you, me and my brother, we both can write. We both know how to write songs. Me and my brother, we wrote every rap on our own, every verse. Never used a ghostwriter, none of that stuff. But we had our rhyme books. Me myself, I can never fully commit to rapping like I wanted to because I really wanted to run the streets. I wanted to do just a whole bunch of different things at once, and I had to remember there was only one me, you know. So, and I couldn't duplicate myself, so I just couldn't commit to music like I wanted to because I had so much stuff going on. I wanted to do so much stuff, but I did eventually make it to the studio eventually, like in my late 20s. I got a lot of songs, a lot of music that I recorded. And the funny part about it is I don't know where it is. So I recorded about 40 songs and I don't know where all my songs are and shit. So I have no idea what happened to all my recordings. But had heat too. So but nevertheless, at the end of the day, you know, something that Will Smith said, like, hit a light bulb in my head. And like I said, he was just talking about his grandmother, and his grandmother, even though she shouldn't have been going through his private things, shouldn't have been opening up his rhyme book, but she saw some of his lyrics, and I guess some of his lyrics were very colorful, and she basically wrote, I think, in his rhyme book that a person with true intelligence don't have to talk like that, which I disagree with. At the end of the day, profanity is always up for debate on whether you have to use it, should use it. What it is really to each his own thing. What I don't like is I don't like people who um try to say, well, I'm smarter than you because I don't have to use that type of language. I don't have to resort to that and all that. You're not. That doesn't mean you're smarter than me because you don't cuss. Because there's people that use profanity that are flat out geniuses. So, it's really, once again, that's opinions vary situation. But one thing that I did like about Will Smith, his raps with Jazzy Jeff as a member of Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince, and then he went on to have all these solo albums that were very successful. He did not use profanity in his records. And I'm gonna talk about that probably in another video about that whole profanity clean rap versus, what you would call explicit rap. Because I think that's a very complex video that I'm probably gonna have to basically do do a lot of research on. And well, actually, I don't need to do research because I pretty much know what happened. Once again, it was the powers that be that like basically diluted hip hop and basically poisoned it and sucked it dry to where it became what it is now. But one thing I did respect about Will Smith, I was one of them dudes. I didn't care whether you use particularly profanity on your records or not. It was, once again, if you had good songs, I really didn't care. But what happened is in the industry, you had people that came along that basically pushed the guys like Will Smith to the side because they didn't use profanity in they raps. You had what you would call the takeover, where they tried to push a certain type of rap out the door. All you have to do is listen to the radio and listen to what type of songs get put out now, and it'll tell you all you need to know, that it was orchestrated, it was calculated, and it was planned. The executed plan, you can't execute it overnight. You have to like put it in bits and pieces like building a puzzle. You sneak it in, and before you know it, it's just wide out there in the open. Because if you just throw it at you all at once, you might possibly figure out what's going on and be like, oh, okay, sort of like what they did with the homosexual agenda and music and in the industry, how they started to slowly but surely sneak it in. And that's pretty much what they did in hip hop, where they faded one type of genre out for another, and they slowly did it like right before your eyes. You know, well, how do you do that? Well, you get the A&Rs, you get the record labels to find a certain type of act. Then they tell them to put certain type of material out. Then you start to present that material to the radio stations. Then it gets played. Then while you listening to artist A, then they start trying to fade artist B out. Or could I say formerly artist A? And then once again, they start putting in a whole bunch of artist B on the radio. And then what happens is diluted, it's flooded. Then that's all the type of music that you listening to. And then they find one act after another. And then as you know, then within years, you used to listening to a certain kind of music. And that's what they did. That's what happened to guys like Will Smith and other people. Because if you look at Rap City back in the day, from the late 80s to what I'm saying, the mid 90s, and then into the early 2000s, they slowly but surely started to push out, like I said, certain type of music. They started to fade it out. Real talk. Think I'm lying? Y'all know I'm telling the truth. But I thought Will Smith was a very good MC. I thought he could rap his ass off. But like I said, you had a certain type of image. You saw certain type of rappers that got put out, and they would tell them to take shots at guys. Oh, these guys are soft because they don't cuss on their records and that type of stuff. And that's, like I said, how we got where we are now, which I'm going to start doing videos about that, the industry and stuff. I'm going to start doing videos about record labels, about CEOs. I'm going to do a video about Steve Rifkin, Barry Weiss, who used to run Jive Records. I'm going to do all them type of videos. They coming. Be patient, y'all. Y'all wanted these hip hop videos. Like I said, I'm going to try to do, from now on, I'm going to try to do one hip hop video a week. Maybe two. But I am going to start doing more hip hop oriented videos. So once again, this your boy Town Biz. Thank you for listening to the video. I'm out.